Truth Unveiled here, and today I'm keeping you updated with the world around you. And I don't know if you heard about this, but there's been a ton of massive flooding all across the South. Now I'm trying to divert your attention away from distractions such as the elections and the upcoming elections, because they're just trying to distract you from what really is going on, from the real truth. And what's the real truth? That what are they planning? Chaos and destruction, and they're starting it little by little, bit by bit. But there's been a ton of flooding, and I'm going to go over with you just where it is and the record floods that have been going on in the past 4 months in America alone. But it says at weather.com, over 24 inches of rain triggers record flooding in the South, including the Sabine River. And this was published today, actually. But it says the 5-plus-day heavy rain event, which featured up to 2 feet of record March rain in the South, is finally over. However, major river flooding will continue for the next several days, rising to historic levels in some areas. Did you hear that? Historic levels. That means it's never been this bad before. It says record flooding is already occurring along a stretch of the Sabine River and will move downstream the next several days along the Texas-Louisiana border due to previous record releases from Toledo Bend Reservoir, first put in service in 1966. And here's a picture of the reservoir, and as you can see, what are they targeting? Dams, just like the Hoover Dam. Oh, now it's starting to make sense, but let's keep going. The river already crushed a previous record crest near Burkeville, Texas by over 5 feet, and that crest is headed downstream for the town of Deweyville, Texas, where it may top the previous unofficial record crest from 1884 by more than 3 feet. On Sunday morning, the Sabine River hit 29 feet in Deweyville, which is the point the town becomes isolated with numerous homes flooded, according to the National Weather Service. The river has since topped 31 feet as of early Monday, which means widespread major to catastrophic flooding is occurring in the town. Why is that? In total, record flooding has occurred in 7 locations so far, including the Bogue Falaya River in Covington, Louisiana, and Bayou Dorchiat in Lake Bistanu, Louisiana. And then, of course, we can see the maps below where you see all the flooding going on. The question is, why all of a sudden? And it goes on to say the top rainfall total from this multi-day heavy rain event last week was more than 24 inches near Monroe, Louisiana. The official airport reporting station in Monroe had picked up 20.66 inches of rain from March 8th through 11th. That's a lot of rain for only a couple of days. Incredibly, in just 4 days, this set a record for the wettest month in Monroe, outpacing October 2009 when 20.56 inches was recorded. Including rainfall from earlier in the month, and on Sunday, Monroe has seen 21.35 inches since March 1st. And of course, they're saying it's incredible. And I know all you skeptics out there are going to be like, oh, well, that happens all the time. Oh, nothing new here. You all honestly need to start waking up and seeing the agenda and seeing what time it really is. Because if you don't think that this is staged ahead of time, if you don't think that HARP and CERN and the government's the ones programming this stuff to go on, I suggest you do your research and think again. But it says, for more storm reports and historical perspective on this event, scroll down a bit to our recap section below, and we will do that. It says, below is a look at the status of rivers in various locations, including places that have set records. Click on each link below for the latest flood forecast from the National Weather Service. And this tells you the crests that are being made, so you can see the big rains and the record crests that are in some of these places in Louisiana, Texas, and Mississippi as well, and places that have already crested in certain bayous, rivers, and other places. And of course, we have the Sabine, and we have some other places in Texas, Mississippi, and Louisiana. And now we have record crests and the crests that have record. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 record crests. Is that a coincidence? And by the way, it's all happening around the same time. And you're still skeptic out there. And of course, they say why this happened. They say a massive, slow-moving downward, southward dip in the jet stream inched east across Mexico, then near the Gulf Coast, funneling deep tropical moisture into parts of the South and Mississippi Valley, a rather unusual pattern for early March. Oh, but they forgot to mention that it's been infiltrated by HARP and CERN and staged ahead of time. They forgot to mention that, didn't they? But it goes on to say the estimated rainfall, as you can see, a ton of rainfall in this area. And it also gives the estimated storm total rainfalls as of March the 12th. And as you can see, these are the inches. It goes by in inches, and it talks about the different records that have been set in different states in the South, and also the calendar day rainfall records for any March day had already been set in the following location. So it says this was one of the heaviest March rain events on record in this area, more reminiscent of a tropical storm or its remnant. Wow, just like the winter storm Jonas, and this just so happened to happen, what, 2 months after Jonas? Is that a coincidence? Not looking like it. But I know you're still skeptical, and you're supposed to be. But it goes on to talk about the rain that's going on out there and the massive flooding as well, and some of the evacuations that have to be made, just like FEMA emergency and FEMA doing the emergency test, what, 2-3 weeks ago? Oh, but you still think it's a coincidence, don't you? It's time to wake up. Here I Am at End of the American Dream by Michael Schneider, and it says, never before has America been hit by so many historic floods in such a short period of time. And he goes over with you the amount of flooding that's been taking place in the past 4 months in America alone. Well, really past 6 months since September. But he says, the U.S. has been hit by 7 historic floods since the month of September, and the latest one is making headlines all over the plain. This week, nearly 2 feet of rain triggered record-setting flooding in parts of Texas, Louisiana, and Mississippi. And more rain is expected for the area as we move into the weekend, and also Arkansas as well. Flooding alone, one part of the Sabine River has already broken the previous record by more than 5 feet, and this crisis is far from over. Of course, this just continues a trend that I've been documenting for months now, which he has. Never before in U.S. history have we ever seen so many historic floods in such a compressed time frame. What does that tell you? But you still think it's a coincidence? You people really need to honestly wake up. But it says the area right along the Texas-Louisiana border is a complete and total disaster right now. And then he reports weather.com, which we already reported. But let's just look at the review and see how bad this is. Back in October, Hurricane Joaquin never made landfall, but it tracked up the east coast of the U.S., causing nightmarish rainfall and flooding all over the eastern seaboard. Things were particularly bad in South Carolina, where the governor declared that it was the worst rainfall that many areas of her state had seen in 1,000 years. What are they getting ready for? The military cannot tell you this because they're under oath, but what are they getting ready for with the coastlines of America? Flooding, massive flooding on both the west and the east coast. They can't tell you that because it was supposed to be a secret. But it goes on to say in October, violent storms in Southern California caused flash flooding that buried some highways and rivers of mud that were up to 6 feet deep. And the hundreds of vehicles got buried in the fast-moving mud, and the lifeless body of one that had his vehicle completely buried by several feet of mud was recovered only after a few days had passed, because that is how long it took emergency workers to dig him out. Now, the question you should be wondering is, why is it getting worse and not better? That's the question you should be thinking about. And more importantly, why is mainstream media keeping us distracted with elections and other things that honestly don't matter? But then it goes on to say Hurricane Patricia was the second most intense tropical cyclone ever recorded in the entire world, and remnants from that storm caused absolutely horrible flooding in some parts of Texas. And who was behind Hurricane Katrina? The same people who's behind this, the same people who's behind Winter Storm Jonas. And by the way, Winter Storm Jonas also caused a lot of flooding as well. See, it wasn't just the snow that was impacted the East Coast. It also caused a ton of flooding. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. But November through December, a conveyor belt of violent storms barreled into coastal areas of Oregon and Washington, causing nightmarish flooding in many areas. Wow, why are they targeting coastal areas? Does the government know something that you don't know? Does the military know something that you don't know? It says the resulting landslides and floods made headlines all over the country, and it is going to be a long time before the region fully recovers. if it ever recovers. In early December, we witnessed the wettest day in the history of Portland, and things were also extremely bad at that time up in the Seattle area. And then it goes into January and how there was record-breaking flooding as well there. And then January, of course, what one of the worst East Coast blizzards in history slammed into Washington, D.C., New York City, and other major metropolitan areas. And what was that? What was it? Winter Storm Jonas. And what did it do? It dumped over 3 feet of snow. Hundreds of thousands of people were left without power. Wow, just like the power outage in Crimea and in Syria, are they getting ready for something? And coastal cities all along the eastern seaboard experienced flooding that was described as, quote, worse than Hurricane Sandy. Are you starting to see what is going on? And then it says, in conclusion, all of these historic floods have hit America since the end of September, and now we can add these new floods in Texas, Louisiana, and Mississippi to the list, as well as Arkansas. Never before in all of U.S. history have we ever seen a series of catastrophic floods like this within such a concentrated space of time. That's what you need to focus on, time. All of this has been going on in 6 months. See, that's what I'm trying to tell all of you. All of you are looking for like some big event, some massive event. No, what are the elite doing? They're doing it step by step. They're all planning and staging it step by step, with flooding over here, power outage over there, this over here, that over there, and distracting you with elections and other false flags and Sandy hoaxes. Why? Because they're getting ready for the bigger things, and they're upping the ante on CERN and HARP. Little do you know. And it says, why is this happening? Is this just some sort of bizarre coincidence? No, we know why it's happening. HARP and CERN. They can't tell you that because it's supposed to be a secret. But what are they getting ready for? Civil unrest, police war, race riots, race wars, martial law. This is just more preparation. But like I said, it's a slow build up. That is what they're building up to. It's nothing big. So all the fear mongering can stop, because I'm telling you, it's a slow build up. But I just wanted to report this to you. And if you're still skeptic over that, well, then I honestly don't know what to tell you. If you're honestly going to keep living as if life's going to go on and that, oh, we're okay, and oh, there's nothing to worry about here, you honestly need to wake up quick, fast, and in a hurry, because the warning signs are alarming. The alarm bells are sounding, but are you heeding the warning, and are you hearing the alarm bells? That's the question. This is Truth Unveiled. Shalom.